So I meant to do this video yesterday, but it was absolutely boiling, so I decided not to. But it's a bit cooler today, so let's get into it. In today's video, we'll be talking about the top 3 dividend stocks for 2021. All of these will be on free trade, so that should help you out. And if you do want to get a free share, then that will also help me out. And the link is in the description below, so feel free, go nuts, go wild. But as always, you've got to remember, I'm not a financial advisor, I'm just a random dude on the internet with a donut t-shirt. So please do your own research before investing your capital. First of all, I'll quickly talk about what is a dividend and what makes a good dividend stock. But if you want to skip through to the stocks, then I will try and remember to put the timestamp in this week. But let's go. So what is a dividend? A dividend is a proportion of a company's profit. So companies will take a percentage of these profits and give it back to the shareholders in forms of dividend payment. And the more reliably the dividends are paid out, the more investors are typically willing to pay for them. So good dividend stocks can be more expensive, but the ones I found today are looking pretty good. And you must remember that dividends are not owed to you, they're not guaranteed, so a company can cut them at any time, so you cannot rely on this income indefinitely. But if you want more protection, then you could look at dividend ETFs, which I did a video last week, and I'll link that here or here to help you out. So what makes a good dividend? Dividends can be expressed as pence, so for example 4 pence per share, or more commonly as a percentage of the share price, which is known as the dividend yield. The dividend yield is a much more useful way to compare dividends. And this is because, for example, if you had a 4p dividend and the share price was £4, this would yield 1%. However, if you had a 4p dividend and the share price was 40p, then you'd actually have a 10% yield. So the percentage just makes a lot more sense when comparing different yields across different companies. However, it's really important that you don't just go high yield hunting, as I like to call it. The reason for this is that the yield is actually sensitive to the share price. So for example, if the share price drops, then the yield is likely to increase. And in most cases, if the share price lowers, it actually means that there's something wrong with the business. It's about to go bust or something dodgy. So you really need to pay attention to what is happening and make sure you're making the right decision when hunting for dividends. And chances are, if the stock does plummet, then the dividends are not going to be around for a very long time. So get out of there. He knew it was about to kick off, so he got out of there. That's the worst Ross Kemp impression ever.
It's ham and egg.
I could see things were about to kick off, so I got out of there.
So when looking at dividend stocks, instead of using the dividend yield as the primary eyeball thing to look at, people actually tend to use dividend cover, or the dividend cover ratio. It tells you how many times the company can afford to pay its dividend using its profits. So a coverage ratio of over 1 means that they can pay that dividend. If it's below, then they're going to have to borrow some money in order to pay the dividend. So the dividend may not be around for long. They might pay this one and then stop the next one, or they may stop the one that is about to come. So you've got to be aware. And a coverage ratio of 1 means they're paying all their profits back to shareholders, so they're not reinvesting into growth of the company. While dividends are great for you and they're great ways to profit from investments, they shouldn't come at the expense of long-term growth for that company. In general terms, a coverage ratio of over 1.5 means that they can healthily pay that dividend and continue to invest elsewhere. So that's what we like. All of the information you need about dividends will be in the company's annual report, so it's really easy to find. But for me, I tend to use Genuine Impact as my first port of call. The reason for this is that they pit all the companies together in the whole entire market and see how they're comparing with each other. So you can see how dividends compare against other companies, which is always good. We like that. And if you fancy getting a free month and a half worth of the premium membership of Genuine Impact, then the link is in the description, and that will help you help yourself when researching stocks and ETFs and whatever you want to research in the stock world, of course. P.S. I do get a small kickback, so thank you if you do decide to sign up. Hopefully all that makes sense and I managed to break it down into something quite digestible. Maybe not. We'll find out when I'm editing in about 3 minutes. But now let's get into the top 3 dividend stocks for 2021. The first stock is ABV. I think that's how you say it. Ticker symbol ABBV. The reason why I like this stock initially is because it's actually a dividend aristocrat, which basically means that this pharmaceutical company has increased their dividend for the last 49 years. And on top of this, it also offers a juicy dividend of 4.5%. But how reliable will this dividend be going forward? I'm going to tell you my opinion, so just stick around. It's not a rhetorical question, so it's fine. Well, it is a rhetorical question. Sales of the company's top drug, Humira, I think I got that right,
Humira,
which was exclusively manufactured in the United States by AbbVie. These sales are likely to plunge in 2023. Due to similar drugs being introduced into the US markets, then that is something definitely to consider, but I think that may be priced in, so maybe people are aware, who knows. Personally, I don't think there's any reason to be worried. AbbVie is not a one-trick pony, and this is not the only drug that they sell, and this is not the only thing that they will succeed on in the future. And of course, the company is already aware, they're self-aware of what's going to happen in 2023. They're preparing for it by making new products and developing R&D, blah blah blah, and have also acquired some new companies to keep the revenue coming in. So they are fully aware of what might happen, and I think they're very prepared. That's credit to them. And I think that AbbVie's strategy should work pretty well. It's just the nature of the industry that some drugs take off and some don't, and competition comes in, blah blah blah. It's just the nature of the industry. They've been around long enough to know that, and they know to keep developing, keep moving forward. And they already anticipate that revenues will fall in 2023, but they're hoping for a sharp incline once that year is over. So the bounce back ability is on point. And hopefully we'll see some continued revenue growth following this. And at the end of the day, sorry, that was a very football-y quote. At the end of the day, it seems likely that AbbVie will continue hiking their dividend year on year. So I don't think there's an issue there. So that's really good. But what's also good is the ex-dividend date is the 14th of July. So if you want to get involved in that, then you'll get a dividend paid out on the 13th of August. So the next choice is a FTSE 100 share, which is quite flying under the radar. And that is Phoenix Group. Ticker symbol PHNX. Phoenix Group is a life insurer. And what they do is they buy closed books of insurance policies from other insurers, and they let it go until the maturity date. And Phoenix is now one of the biggest fish in the UK market, and they've had reliable performance over the last few years. And according to Genuine Impact, the stock is pretty good value right now. It's in the top 20% of stocks in this sector, and on an even better note, its Genuine Impact shows that the dividend strength is very high, and that means they're in the top 10% of stocks in that sector for dividend strength, so we like that. And this just shows that cash generation is really strong and allows them to pay their whopping 6.5% dividend yield. And the business actually came through last year with not really being affected very much by what's been going around in the air. Cough cough. Let's not talk about that. I don't want to get demonetized. And we love to see that. As I said about Airbnb were really good and really strong through the... That's what we like. Companies that can ride the storm, basically, ride the wave. However, the main risk of investing in Phoenix is that we don't see the growth year on year because they're sort of at the top of the market. Is there actually much room for growth? But for me, even if they grow a tiny little bit and continue paying their dividend, that's good in my book. So it's obviously up to you, and make sure you do your own research, but that's just my opinion on that. And to summarise, insurance businesses notoriously have complex financials, but I'm quite confident in this FTSE 100 stock, so we're repping the UK. Come on England, it's coming out. For me, this is a dividend stock that I'll buy and just keep for a few years and just see what happens. And the ex-dividend date is the 12th of August, and you'll get your dividend on the 3rd of September, so if you want to get in, you've got a bit more time than the previous, but make sure you're quick. And moving on to the next company, it is a big player in the telecoms industry, which is an industry that is notoriously friendly for dividends. Most of the sector's big dogs pay dividends, so it's a nice industry to be in. But while you can get a good dividend yield from the telecom industry, it is quite hard to actually make profit in this industry because the margins are so small and there's a lot of competition. So for that reason, it is really important to have a coverage ratio of above 1 so that you know that this dividend is going to come. And the company we're talking about is Verizon, and it actually has a 1.8 dividend coverage ratio. So that is really, really good and beats the competition like Vodafone by a long way. And Verizon's dividend yield of 4.5% might not seem a lot compared to Vodafone, which is around 6%, and of course Phoenix Group, which is up 6% as well. But where I think Verizon wins is security. It's one of the most important factors when it comes to income investing, and this is very secure at 1.8%. So as a business, it's actually quite hard for Verizon to compete, as I said, because of the prices. There's not really much margin there. So while that is good for Joe Blogs and us, it's actually not great for their company. But Verizon are actually in good shape. They're in good financial shape. They have a lot of cash and they are actually profitable, which is all very good signs. And 5G is the next big thing in this industry. So that is a big thing for Vodafone and Verizon and all of these other companies. So hopefully they can capitalize on that. However, it does of course come with a cost, and it's added 40 billion to the debt on their balance sheet. So not ideal. But in the grand scheme of things, that's not a huge amount of debt for a company this big. The ex-dividend date for this is the 8th of July, and you'll get your dividend on August the 2nd. So that's it. That has been my 3 top dividend stocks for 2021. Hopefully you can get in before the ex-dividend dates if you decide to do your own research and invest in them. But I'd love you to let me know what other dividend stocks you are looking at, and if there's anything that I missed, if there's anything that I could talk about. So for me, I'll be adding these to my free trade account and just seeing how they go, just buy 1 share each. And I'll also add them to my Pi Felicia Pi, which I'll link in the description down below, as they will have some sweet dividends, and that's what we like. But that's it from me. Don't forget to get your free stocks down in the description, and I will love you forever. And I'm not a millionaire, but I'm trying to help you become one. So peace. A dividend is a proportion of a company's payment. So good dividend stocks are